Hey, True Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. It's March 9th, 2017, the 20-year anniversary of the death of Notorious B.I.G. In this video, we're going to talk about his death in relation to Tupac Shakur. We're also going to talk about the relationship between the date he died, Puff Daddy, Faith Evans, and Jay-Z. Three people who you could say benefited from his death. What I find interesting is Tupac's 20-year anniversary of his death just passed September 13th, 1996, and it didn't get a lot of media attention. But the 20-year anniversary of the death of Notorious B.I.G. is getting a lot of attention, and I have a feeling that's for a reason. I think we might see the mother of Notorious B.I.G. die in the near future, or possibly his former wife, Faith Evans. And we'll talk more about that. There's some reason the media is giving so much attention to the 20-year anniversary of Notorious's death. Definitely more than they gave, again, to the passing of Tupac. And we just passed his 20-year anniversary. So Notorious died in 97. A fitting year for him to die. In Gematria, death sums to 97. So does Notorious. So does the diss track Hit 'Em Up by Tupac Shakur, making fun of Notorious B.I.G. They said it's the most, or I shouldn't say they said, they still say it's the most brutal hip-hop diss track. Tupac, he says a million different things about Notorious, including that he had sex with his wife. So if you've never heard this song, Hit 'Em Up, it's threatening Notorious, it's threatening his death. Of course, Notorious died after Tupac, but it's very interesting. The title of that song, Hit 'Em Up, sums to 97, like the year he died in. And real quick, I just want to cover the gematria of the word death, because we're going to look at all of these numbers. Death has gematria of 20. They're making a big deal about the 20-year anniversary of his death. Death also has gematria of 25. Notorious died just before his 25th birthday. He died at age 24 in accordance with his 25th birthday. He died a span of 74 days before his 25th birthday. Rapper equals 74. Killing 74. Machiavelli 74. Masonic equals 74. Notorious B.I.G. grew up in a very Masonic area of New York where a lot of hip-hop talent has come out of. We'll touch on that. Death also has gematria of 38. He died on a date with 38 numerology, as did Tupac Shakur, as have so many celebrities who have died prematurely. 38, the number I see the most around death in this research. 97 death, dead in 1997. He was also buried on a date with 118 numerology. Tupac died on a date with 38 and 118 numerology. We saw these numbers coded into the recent deaths of Prince and Vanity. In case you're new to my channel, you've never seen my work, in case you're having thoughts that maybe what I'm showing you is already bizarre, it is not. Go back to February 2016. I predicted the death of Prince by the numbers. I talked about the exact numbers Prince died by. The recording of numbers purposefully into song titles foreshadowing future deaths, such as Hit 'Em Up equaling 97 and Notorious B.I.G. dying in 97. Consider this. In 1983, Prince recorded the song I Would Die For You. He spelled it with the number 4 and the letter U. I'll just show you that U, using the alphabetic order, is the 21st letter. U is the 21st letter in the alphabet. For you, 421, Prince died on 421. You see? There's so many examples of this, but let's focus here. Let's get more into death by the numbers. So Notorious B.I.G. died March 9th, 3-9. He was known as being a New York hip-hop star, now considered a legend. 3-9 was a fitting date for him to pass, because in Gematria, Biggie equals 39, so does Puff Daddy, so does New York, so does Empire. New York's the Empire State. NY equals 39. Let's just appreciate this by typing it out. English reduction, New York 39, NY, the abbreviation using the alphabetic order 39, it's the Empire State, Empire 39, NYC and reverse ordinals 39. The United Nations that's in New York is 39 floors tall. New York was established July 26, 1788, date with 39 numerology. MSG, the famous structure there for concerts, sports games. There's just so much 39 in New York. And it's even coded into the name Puff Daddy. Puff Daddy 39. Puff Daddy, who released his first album just after the death of Notorious B.I.G, which we'll get to. March 9th, it's also the 68th day of the year. When Notorious B.I.G. passed, there was speculation that perhaps it was a retaliatory killing for the death of Tupac Shakur. When Tupac died, there was speculation that maybe Notorious B.I.G. was connected. Remember, Notorious B.I.G. had a diss track for Tupac called Who Shot Ya, which we'll also get to. And both of these men are supposedly murder mysteries, unsolved. No one knows who shot either of them. Hard to believe. But anyway, March 9th was the 68th day of the year connecting to the name Tupac Shakur. With regards to 68 and death, caskets often go 6 feet deep or 8 feet long. We see 68 around death a lot. MLK assassinated that year. Bobby Kennedy assassinated in 68. Routine number around death as well. Notorious B.I.G. dead on the 68th day of the year. So the date he died, March 9th, 1997, it has the 38 numerology. Death equals 38, killing 38, rapper 38, murder 38, RIP 38, hit 'em up, the Tupac diss track 38. Both men died on dates with 38 numerology. The date Notorious B.I.G. died was also a date with 109 numerology. He died in Los Angeles. Remember, there was the West Coast, East Coast hip-hop rivalry thing being promoted for record sales. Notorious B.I.G. from the East Coast. He died out west, recording the music video for Hypnotize. Los Angeles has the gematria of 109. Just like Who Shot Ya has 109. That was his diss track for Tupac. He died out on the West Coast on a date with 109 numerology as well. In regards to dying on March 9th, the last name Shakur has Tupac Shakur. Here's Biggie Smalls' diss track, Who Shot Ya, has gematria 44, as well as 109. 109 like Los Angeles. 44 is also interesting because 44 is the kill number. The word kill's 44, the word shooting's 44. Just show you real quick. Alphabetic order, kills 44, shooting 44, execution 44, 44 a number of death, genocide 44. Who Shot Ya also has the gematria of 44. Just make sure you see it all. I know it's a lot of numbers, but all of these numbers have meaning. So the day Notorious B.I.G. died was a Sunday. Some interesting things about Sunday, special day of the week. He died 16 days before the release of his album Life After Death. You know, just think about it. His first album, Notorious B.I.G., his first album was Ready to Die. The album that released right after his death was Life After Death. And with regards to Tupac Shakur, his last music videos, I Ain't Mad at Ya, it showed Tupac in heaven. He did the video with Scarface on the Cross. The album that released right after Tupac's death was Machiavelli with Tupac on the cross like Jesus. There's a song on Machiavelli, that album, called Blasphemy, and it begins with a 33-second demonic voice recording. John Lennon was murdered by the number 38, and the supposed killer said it was a blasphemy that John Lennon said he was more popular than Jesus. You know? John Lennon dead by the number 38, the Jesus connection, Tupac. We're going to talk about how the Jesus connection also works in with the Notorious B.I.G. Sacrifice. So anyway, Notorious B.I.G. shot on a Sunday 16 days before the release of his album. 16 has gematria of 39. So does the word diamond. His Life After Death album would get the rare diamond certification, sales above even the platinum level. 16 in diamond also sum to 33. Number of sacrifice, Jesus on the cross at 33. Biggie also has the gematria of 33. So does Sunday. So does Hypnotize. He was reportedly out west to record the Hypnotize music video. When you write out 33, it sums to 66. Just like the title Life After Death equals 66, he died on a Sunday. Sunday has major gematria parallels with the Bible. Bible equals 33. Good book, 33. The Bible, 66 books in length. So here's the release of Life After Death, March 25th. 1997, again 16 days after he died. This is the 84th day of the year. We'll talk about the significance of 84. The date release was a date with 144 numerology, the number that represents time, also a number that represents killing. So many major assassinations and deaths throughout history tied to the number 144. Very interesting that the album Life After Death released on a date with 144 numerology. It's also a date with a life lesson number of 54. Notorious's rap group was Junior Mafia. They're on this album. Could be coincidental, but probably not. The release of the album was also a date with 125 numerology. It released 125 days after Puff Daddy's 27th birthday. 125 has a connection to the number 223, which we'll touch on later. Number of the Freemasons. The album that released while Notorious was alive, September 13th, 1994, Ready to Die. It's so interesting that this album released on this date because 2 years later, Tupac Shakur would die on this date. That date can be written 13/9, a lot like 139. Freemasonry equals 139, so does Tupac Shakur. Special number to the history of this nation. America has gematria of 139. The day Tupac died, September 13th, 1996, date with 38 numerology, 47, 137, which is the 33rd prime number, and 118. Again, 38, 118 numbers of death. The date numerology of his death matches identically the date numerology of Christopher Wallace or Notorious B.I.G's funeral, which we'll get to. Just for extra information, the release date of his first album, Notorious B.I.G, Ready to Die, date with 45 numerology, hip hop equals 45. The reflection of 54. Show you something cool about 45 and 54. If you write out 45 in English reduction, it sums to 54. And if you write out 54, it also sums to 54, or in reverse, 45. You see that? So his two albums, 45, 54 dates, hip-hop 45. Some people say the greatest hip-hop artist of all time was Notorious B.I.G. The release of this album is also the day that leaves 109 days left in the year. Again, he died on a date with 109 numerology, Ready to Die. The date of his funeral, March 18th, 1997. This is the 77th day of the year, March 18th. Date with identical numerology to the date Tupac died. This date has a lot of connections to Christ. Show you this real quick. The word Christ equals 77, dead on the 77th day of the year. Again, we're talking about in relation to Tupac, who had the album Machiavelli with him on the cross. In the Bible, the second coming of Jesus Christ is mentioned 318 times. And March 18th, 318, is the 77th day of the year. 318 also comes up a few other times in the Bible. So I think there is definitely some symbolism there on his funeral landing on that date. He was born, Christopher Wallace, Notorious B.I.G., May 21st, 1972. Hip-hop has gematria 45 and 72, using the alphabetic order. Fitting year for a hip-hop legend be born, May 21st, 1972. May 21st is the 141st day of the year. 33 has the connection to 141. Talking about the 33s in his death. Recording the song Hypnotize. With regards to this day leaving 224 days left in the year, we talked about how his last album released on the 84th day of the year. Let's see. Come back up here to that. His final album, Life After Death, released on the 84th day of the year. United States of America has gematria of 84. This album also came out 132 weeks after his last album. United States of America also has gematria of 132. That's the reason there's 132 rooms in the White House. Catholic Church also sums to 132. And where Washington, D.C. was once the Catholic colony, where they were the government. Anyway, 84, 132. We were talking about how the day he's born leaves 224 days left in the year. The numbers that divide into 84 sum to 224. Those numbers have a relationship in this study. The name Shakur also has gematria of 84. So does Sunday, the day he died on. So does the word Savior. His birth numerology, being born the day he was in 72, was also a date with a life lesson number of 45. You know, fitting day for a hip-hop legend. Born in 72, date with a life lesson number of 45. Puff Daddy and Jay-Z were both 27 at the time Notorious died. He was born with 27 numerology, another number often connected to death in the recording industry. Jay-Z, Puff Daddy, two of the biggest beneficiaries of this man's death. From the day he died to his upcoming 25th birthday was 73 days. The word sacrifice is 73, or a span of 74 days. Killing 74, Masonic 74, Jewish 74, Occult 74, Rapper 74, Machiavelli, Tupac, Cross. Notice Machiavelli and Tupac are both 74. The album that came out after Tupac's death, Machiavelli, there he is on the cross. I mean, just think about it. Just throw out the numbers. I long before I understood the numbers, back when I was a teenager, I was, how old was I when? I was 13 when Tupac died. And when this album came out, I thought, what in the world? Tupac on the cross. And then, Notorious B.I.G. died right before the release of his album. And the album name was already known. I thought, how weird. He dies right before Life After Death. I mean, the symbolism is just put right in front of your face. And, I'm amazed that more people don't consider these things. From Biggie's 24th birthday to his death was also 293 days later, which is the 62nd prime number. And that's a number that's important to Freemasonry. Mason 62, P Diddy 62, Jay-Z 62, the Notorious, as he sometimes went by, 62. After the death of Notorious B.I.G., Puff Daddy, who changed his name to P Diddy later, his album would come out 115 days later, a span of 115 days. It came out 114 days after his death, or a span of 115 days. Puff Daddy's birthday is November 4th, 114, 114 days later, or a span of 115. Freemasons equals 115, and the word killing has two connections to 115. They said that Notorious B.I.G. died at 1:15 in the morning. Notorious B.I.G. pronounced dead at 1:15 in the morning. Puff Daddy's album comes out 115 days later. If you read about the mystery of the killing, they said his killer was wearing a bow tie, Notorious B.I.G. Bow tie equals 74, like killing, like Masonic, like how he died a span of 74 days before his 25th birthday. But anyway, Puff Daddy's album, which came out July 1st, this album has a song called, where did I put it at? It has a song called Young G's. Oh, right here. Young G's. And Jay-Z's on the song. You know, that was the first time I ever heard Jay-Z's voice, honestly, was this song right here. I know that Jay-Z released his album Reasonable Doubt the year before, but I don't think a lot of people really knew who Jay-Z was back then. Maybe on the East Coast people did, but he wasn't big out West Coast. He grew at the end of the 90s. But anyway, this was the first time I ever heard of Jay-Z, was on this song. And, you know, you look at the hip-hop industry, that there's not two men who benefited more from the death of Notorious B.I.G. than Puff Daddy and Jay-Z. And with regards to Young G's, you got rappers like Rick Ross talking about the Freemason compass and square and masonry in the industry. G is the symbol of the Freemasons. G represents 33. You know, March 3rd, 3/3 is the 62nd day of the year. The calendar created by Freemasonry. Freemasonry runs the show. And when I say runs the show, I mean it runs so much in this world. Money, government, media, the entertainment industries. Freemasons pride themselves on being the keepers of knowledge, abide by esoteric practices such as gematria, doing things by the numbers, what I'm showing you here. Notorious B.I.G. was born Christopher George Latour Wallace, a name with gematria of 153, which makes me think that Notorious B.I.G., like so many of these rappers, was born into Masonic connections. He was born near the Bed-Stuy neighborhood, Freemason Central. 153 is a really special number. It's often paired with 42. It comes from the miraculous catch in the Bible of 153 fish. See it again and again in these celebrity names. Special number. Christopher Wallace, also a name with 88 gematria. Hip Hop, HH. Sean Corey Carter, a name with 88 gematria. That's the name of Jay-Z. You watch hip hop music videos, a lot of 88 symbolism. H is the 8th letter. HH, 88. From Sean Carter's death, or excuse me, from Sean Carter, Jay-Z's birthday, Jay-Z was born on the day Fred Hampton was murdered, the Black Panther. I just did that recent video on all the deaths in Screwed Up Click. It's amazing how many of them have December 4th connections. But anyway, from Jay-Z's 27th birthday in 1996, the year his album Reasonable Doubt came out, until the death of Notorious B.I.G. was 96 days. And Freemason equals 96. If you write out the word 16, it has gematria of 96. Notorious died 16 days before life after death. Does not seem arbitrary. So CNN talks about his relationship with his wife, Faith Evans. They were young when they were married together. Look at this. Faith Evans, her music career began in 1993 in Los Angeles, where her husband died. And from his death to her upcoming birthday, she was 23 at the time of his death, to her upcoming 24th birthday was 93 days. And think about it, he died on March 9th, a date that can be written 3/9 or 9/3, two of the biggest numbers in New York. How interesting that it was exactly 93 days before Faith's birthday. 93 is the number for Saturn, the keeper of time. Saturn has to do with death, and judgment. The astrological symbol for Saturn is the scythe. That's why we know the Grim Reaper with the scythe. 93 days before her birthday, her husband died. And her career benefited from his death as well. You know, wouldn't it be the first time somebody sold out a loved one, a family member, a spouse for their own benefit? You know, something that happens every day in this world. The name Faith Evans in Gematria also sums to 42. Puff Daddy also has the Gematria 42. Number often stamped on black people. The most hateful word for black people sums to 42. February sums to 42, the only month that does. Black History Month. Slavery 42. You go through your favorite hip-hop artists on the Gematrinator calculator, you're going to see a lot of 42 in the industry. There's a ton. So Faith and Notorious B.I.G., they were married on August 4th, the 216th day of the year, 8-4. Remember, Life After Death came out on the 84th day of the year. What's interesting is there's a relationship between 44 and 84. We were talking about 44 and killing earlier. All of the numbers that divide into 44 sum to 84. Notice that he was married to Faith. Faith equals 44. She's going to turn 44 years old later this year. A lot of people drop dead mysteriously at age 44. So if I was Faith, I'd be looking out. When Notorious died, his mother was 44 years old, and her name Gematria is also 44, which we'll get to. But the divisors of 44 sum to 84. Notorious married to Faith on 8/4. There's a lot of arranged marriages in the music recording industry. Jay-Z and Beyonce were married on 4/4, April 4th. Kim and Kanye, yeah, that is right, Kim and Kanye were married on the 144th day of the year. Talked about that more recently in Beyonce's pregnancy announcement by the numbers. Anyhow, Faith will be turning 44 years old this year. We'll see if she makes it past age 44. Faith, Kill, Execution, Fibonacci. The reason Fibonacci's up there is because her birthday also corresponds with the Fibonacci sequence. Her birthday is June 10th. The 15th Fibonacci number is 610. 610. For you basketball fans, you might recall that Game 7 of the NBA Finals, the Warriors and Cavs met in Game 7, both having scored 610 points. It wasn't a coincidence. It was all part of the riddle and the scripting of why LeBron James won on the real King James's birthday, breaking a 52-year curse in Cleveland. You can go back and watch my videos on that. With regards to 610 being the 15th Fibonacci number, 15 has Gematria of 38, connecting to death. And I should look at what 15 is with the other methods too. 15 also connects to 34 like murder. So anyhow, at the time of Notorious B.I.G's death, his mother was 44 years old. She turned 44 in 1997, February 3rd, 34 days before the death of her son, Murder 34. Her name in Gematria also sums to 44. When she was 44, her son was murdered. So we're told. And what I would wager is this woman was connected to Freemasonry. You know, she was from that area. Her son, born into it. Almost every celebrity you know is connected through Freemasonry, and that's why you know their names. There's a lot of talent in this world that never makes it to the big stage because they're not born into the right families. Don't feel bad, though, because look, imagine maybe you were born into these families and you would have been murdered as a younger person just for being part of it. The Zionists, the Freemasons who run the recording industry, death sells. That's why there's a financial motive to murder. And, you know, money, it corrupts. That's why family members, you know, they sell each other out. Wouldn't be the first time a mother sold out their child. And I don't want to make any false accusations, but there's all sorts of mothers in this world that sell out their children. You know? The day she was born was a date with 58 numerology, Freemasonry 58, secret society. It was also a date with 77 numerology. Her son's funeral on the 77th day of the year. Mo money, mo problems. Gematria of 84, like 228. Same as United States of America. Again, his last album came out on the 84th day of the year. Mo money, mo problems. And that is really true, you know? Money will bring problems you couldn't perceive into your life. The deaths of Tupac and Notorious B.I.G. came 177 days apart. They talk about how Notorious B.I.G. made a cameo appearance on Martin. Martin, I think his apartment number was 402, if I remember correctly. We just saw the death of Tommy from Martin by the numbers, by the number 38. 38 days from his birthday. Have a video on the death of Tommy from Martin. 2016. I just want to point out that the last name Wallace also has Gematria 42. Christopher Wallace. So anyway, Notorious, he was born in Brooklyn, New York. 223, number of the Freemasons. Brooklyn, New York also has the Gematria of 74, like Masonic, like killing, like we've seen so many rappers die by. A lot of hip-hop artists out of Brooklyn. He grew up in the Clinton Hill neighborhood. Clinton has that 33 connection. Remember, the original governor of New York was George Clinton. Clinton's political dynasty, that's what that neighborhood's named after. Clinton also has the 39 connection. George Clinton was born in 1739. The name George is 39. He was vice president to Madison. Madison 39. Everything about Madison's history, 39. But anyway, the point is, he's born in this really Masonic neighborhood. Almost every rapper, you look into them, their parents are connected to Freemasonry. They're part of controlled opposition, such as the Black Panther Party. For people who don't know, the Black Panther Party was Masonic controlled opposition. The powers that shouldn't be know that they need to lead the opposition, as they've done all throughout history, to stay in power. Black Lives Matter is controlled opposition, run by a gang that hates black people. Just like the people who controlled the Black Panther Party hated black people. You know, they knew that by creating that party, it would create all sorts of negative sentiment towards black Americans. Black Panther Party, 74. Interesting that it's also 97. Was Notorious's mother a Black Panther? Tupac's was. So many of your favorite hip-hop stars, their family were in the Black Panther Party. Remember, Jay-Z, born on the day that Fred Hampton was murdered. Fred, 33. Hampton, 33. Killed by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. You live in a Masonic nation. Where they talk about where he lived, they say he grew up 226 at St. James Place. It's so interesting that they mentioned that his address was 226. And it makes me think that, honestly, it wasn't even arbitrary either. It makes me think that this family that he was born into, his mother, definitely connected to Freemasonry. 226, 93, super important numbers to New York. There's a reason there was the February 26th, 93 World Trade Center bombing. If you write out 226, it sums to 93. 93, the number of Saturn. In Jewish gematria, planet equals 226, and to the occult, the most important planet is Saturn. You see how Saturn also sums to 511? Just because we're talking about dead musicians by the numbers. Bob Marley, 93, dead on May 11th. In that song Young G's, Jay-Z's talking about Bob Marley. He calls him the late Bob Marley. Then he says, pardon me, y'all. I mean the great Bob Marley. Is Bob Marley still alive? You know? By the way, Marley, a lot of connections to Christianity, 74, like Jesus. like Cross. Him and Peter Tosh both dead by the numbers. Peter Tosh died on September 11th. But anyway, they mentioned how this address that he grew up in, 226 at St. James Place, right next to the Bed-Stuy neighborhood, 93, 39, 33, 96, numbers of the Freemasons. He was on Bad Boy Records. Bad Boy Records equals 59. Remember, Motown came out in 59. Black History Month ends on the 59th day of the year. They say that AIDS was discovered in the Belgian Congo in 59. Negro 59, Jigaboo 59, Slave 59, Blues 59, Rasta 59, Kill 59. Bad Boy Records, even with the death of Notorious B.I.G, grew a lot in the aftermath, you know? Death sells. Death brings attention. Death brings interest. And the deaths of Tupac Shakur and Notorious B.I.G made hip-hop a way more popular industry. It's so that's something I observed growing up. I was a white person who grew up in a black neighborhood. I was exposed to hip-hop music from a young age. My sister, you know, she only dated black men because we were the only white people around. Well, and not just because of that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I had great older brothers, is the way I looked at growing up, who were black men, who taught me a lot about this world, gave me a lot of skills. But what I noticed is listening to hip-hop music, its peak was the mid-90s, around the time of the death of these men. And then, you know, a few years later, it was starting to get really bad. Commercial artists like Nelly, just horrible music. But that's when it blew up. That's when all the white people started listening to hip-hop. It's just funny how that worked out. It was like the talent got killed, the music got corrupted, and then it blew up. Once it went commercial and sounded like plastic trash, everybody started listening. But it had to do with the deaths of these men, you know? Bad Boy also has the 113 gematria. They say Notorious was killed on Wilshire Boulevard with the man with the bow tie. Remember, mainstream equals 113, dishonest, bullshit, fiction. Puff Daddy, currently 47 years old. Something tells me we won't hear about Puff Daddy dying for a long time. I think he'll live old. I think the worst of the sellouts live the longest. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot of it. If you want to do more research, there's even more here. Plug in the names of the two streets that he was supposedly shot at. Both of them have really interesting gematria. I could go on even further with this, but I think we covered the brunt of it. If you missed my work on the death of Tupac Shakur and the members of the Outlaws and Big Psych, who just recently passed, you know, it's just an ongoing pattern of people dying by the exact same numbers again and again. So that's why Notorious B.I.G. died in 97. I'm going to pay attention to what happens with other related hip-hop deaths in the near future. You know they'll come. There's some reason they're giving so much attention to this, but they didn't give this much attention to the death of Tupac Shakur, his 20-year anniversary, which I talked about in the beginning. You know, up here in Seattle where I live, forever the hip-hop channel up here, the only hip-hop radio station in the early 90s in the entire Pacific Northwest region was Cube 93. And it's funny that it's Cube 93 because 93 is the number for Saturn, and Saturn is represented by the cube. Cube 93 was the hip-hop station up here. Anyway, that station recently folded, and now it's not quite as much of a hip-hop station that we have up here. It's funny that Seattle doesn't have a hip-hop station anymore, but it's 103.7. They play some hip-hop music. I call it the Jay-Z Michael Jackson station because 80% of the songs are Jay-Z, Michael Jackson, or Beyonce. I guess I should throw her name in there too. But almost anytime you turn on the radio station, Michael Jackson's on or Jay-Z, and it's just like, come on, there's other musicians in the world. But anyway, all week on this radio station, they have just been playing nonstop Notorious B.I.G. and talking about his death, and they didn't do that for Tupac. So I'm asking myself, why is the media focusing so much on the 20-year anniversary of his death? I think we're going to see someone related to him die soon. You know, the people, the disc jockeys and stuff that talk about it, they just follow orders. You know, they're just told what to talk about, you know. They're paid. But the people who own the radio stations, you know, the big conglomerates run by the Masons, the Zionists, there's a reason. I'm sure all throughout this nation they have everybody talking about Notorious B.I.G. all this week, just like they do up in Seattle. All right, Truth Seeker, we'll wrap it up right there. Until next time.